Forensic specialists recreate the appearances of many early people solely from bone structure of the skull, measurements of soft tissue thickness, and advanced technical ability. These outcomes frequently catch observers off guard. The surprise does not stem from the faces resembling crude prehistoric stereotypes of rough cave dwellers. Instead, the faces often resemble ordinary individuals one might encounter casually in daily life, without noticing anything unusual. This leads to a question that carries more weight and scientific depth than it seems at first. Did early humans qualify as appealing under either past or present criteria for looks? Or has the common mental image of them been inaccurate all along? The matter needs careful separation. A truthful response depends on distinguishing two separate questions that people often combine in everyday talk. One question asks whether early humans would meet current particular ideals of beauty. The other, more significant question concerns what attractiveness means in biological terms and whether early humans face the same basic biological forces. The reply to the second question is a clear yes. That fact unlocks nearly all other aspects of the subject. Begin with the basic science involved. Attractiveness may seem like a purely cultural and random preference that shifts with each fashion change. In reality, it rests on a deep and steady evolutionary base. Scholars examining preferences for looks across cultures have identified particular traits that appear as widely and steadily favored in a vast array of unrelated societies. These include balance in the face, smooth and uniform skin surface, and specific ratios among facial parts. Such consistency holds great importance since these traits are not random. They serve as reliable and difficult to counterfeit indicators of basic health, steady growth, and genetic soundness. Balance in the face often links to steady and uninterrupted growth in childhood. Major sickness, parasite infection, or lack of proper food during critical growth stages usually creates lasting and measurable imbalance. Smooth skin likewise indicates freedom from present parasite burden or ongoing infection. No deliberate thinking is needed for this. Human brains developed to regard these traits as appealing because over many early generations, those who preferred them and selected mates showing them produced healthier children with higher chances of survival. Therefore, early humans functioned under precisely these same basic pressures related to attractiveness. The surface cultural forms differed, yet the core biological system that assessed possible partners for balance, skin clarity, and markers of strong health operated in nearly the same manner as it does in present-day human minds. An early person with clearly balanced features and smooth skin would have seemed appealing to fellow early people for the same basic biological causes that make a balanced modern person with clear skin seem appealing now. The core assessment system has not changed in any real way, even though the cultural focus placed over it has changed completely. Next, consider a notable point about facial bone form in particular. This area proves far more complex than a simple affirmative or negative reply. Skulls of early people, especially from older eras, often display somewhat stronger and more marked brow ridges, wider face shapes, and overall thicker bone compared with the typical present-day human face. This prompts a real question that deserves direct attention. Would those bone differences have seemed unappealing under present beauty ideals, which often prefer finer and lighter bone form, especially in faces viewed as standardly appealing in culture? The truthful reply is truly complex and rests largely on the precise early group and exact era under discussion. Groups existing near the rise of anatomically modern Homo sapiens around 200,000 years ago, and later in fact, display face forms much closer to present humans than common ideas usually suggest. Lighter and relatively fine bone form was already firmly present in our species well before written history started. The truly strong and heavy-featured faces that most people envision when thinking of early humans link far more to earlier hominin kinds, or to Neanderthals in particular. Those groups had a clearly different and stronger face structure than Homo sapiens, even in times when the two species lived side by side. Thus, the precise reply to whether early humans met present standards of appeal depends greatly on which early humans are meant. Combining all pre-modern human groups into one uniform class greatly oversimplifies what was in fact a much more diverse situation. Consider Neanderthals in particular, since this ties into a truly notable current field of study. Neanderthals had clearly bigger brow ridges, a stronger forward projection of the middle face, and overall stronger bone form than Homo sapiens. When judged only by present main beauty ideals, those traits would probably seem non-standard or odd to most people today. Yet here is a truly key complication that merits direct focus. Homo sapiens and Neanderthals mixed genetically many times over a long span of close contact, as detailed in an earlier discussion. This shows that at least certain Homo sapiens groups found Neanderthals appealing enough, or at least suitable enough as partners for reproduction, to create children together on a significant and repeated basis. Whatever exact reasoning applied to attraction between the species, then it clearly did not form an absolute obstacle. That fact reveals something truly notable about how adaptable and situation-based standards of attraction can prove, even across groups now seen as fully distinct human species. A further key point concerns personal decoration and care of appearance. This offers some of the most straightforward and strong proof that early humans placed great value on how they looked. It was not a minor side matter, but a truly major and steady concern over a vast stretch of human time. Red ochre received full coverage earlier in relation to burial customs, yet its use went far past funeral settings. Finds from digs reveal red ochre and other colorants applied as body decoration while people lived. This indicates early humans deliberately altered and improved their looks with cosmetic methods tens of thousands of years before any written note on what makes someone appear well. Ornaments form another truly strong class of proof. Dig sites have yielded beads from shell, bone, ivory, and other substances going back tens of thousands of years. These were carefully made, pierced, and linked for the purpose of personal decoration. Making such objects took actual time, ability, and use of resources. The high regularity of this habit across a huge spread of separately evolving early cultures strongly indicates that personal looks, and especially the intentional improvement of looks past pure practical need, held great importance for early humans. This links straight and clearly to matters of appeal status and how one presents in society. Include combs as well, since they form a truly underappreciated item of proof in this whole discussion. Researchers have found early combs made from bone, antler, and ivory that date many thousands of years back. These stand as truly intentional, specialized tools for grooming rather than chance leftovers from other work. Keeping hair neat demands steady work and shows precisely the sort of personal effort toward looks that ties straight to issues of appeal and social display. This implies early humans deliberately handled their grooming with clear purpose, rather than simply living in a messy, uncaring natural condition that common ideas sometimes picture. Next, address body alteration in a wider sense. Multiple early and historical societies carried out intentional and often truly painful changes to the body for reasons of looks and culture. Examples include intentional changes to teeth by filing or forming them into set designs, different kinds of scarring, and other planned changes to natural looks. Such customs demanded true, ongoing cultural dedication and often real bodily pain. This firmly supports the view that looks, and especially culture-based rules for what seemed appealing or socially important, held true importance and true effects in those early societies. This goes far beyond any passive, uncaring stance that whatever natural looks one has is acceptable. Also consider Venus figurines, since they form one of the most truly contested and often misread classes of proof in this whole subject. These little carved objects mostly show female shapes with enlarged and highlighted parts, especially at the hips, breasts, and midsection. They turn up at many Paleolithic locations over a wide geographic area. For an extended period, common readings viewed these figures as direct depictions of early beauty ideals, basically the preferred body form of early people shown in stone or ivory. Later, careful study has strongly challenged this basic reading. It notes that the figures could stand for fertility symbols or self-views from a personal downward angle rather than an outside ideal image or some wholly other symbolic or ritual aim that does not necessarily link straight to simple preference for looks. This serves as a solid case for why the whole subject needs true care in interpretation. One item of early art does not always reveal with certainty what early humans regarded as appealing. It could convey something far more complex about ritual, fertility symbols, or artistic custom that researchers are still working to grasp fully. Here is a truly notable question that deserves direct treatment. Is there any fairly direct proof about which exact traits early humans themselves saw as appealing beyond mere guesses from grooming objects and wider evolutionary ideas? At this point, the proof becomes truly scarcer and far more based on guesswork, because written accounts describing exact early beauty preferences clearly do not exist for the deep prehistoric era covered in most of this discussion. When the focus shifts to eras, with real written historical documents, such as texts and art from ancient Egypt, Greece, and Mesopotamia, more clear proof of particular beauty rules appears. These include certain skin colors, certain body ratios, and set styles of clothing and decoration that often differed greatly by social rank, gender, and exact local culture. This later historical proof demonstrates plainly that rules for beauty have always differed by culture and by historical moment. At the same time, the basic biological leanings toward balance and health-marking traits covered earlier stayed fairly steady beneath all that cultural change. Raise a truly key point about how sharply beauty rules have changed, even in only the last few centuries of written history. This offers truly helpful background for grasping how much of attractiveness is built by culture and rests directly on that more fixed, basic biological base. Preferences for body size, skin color, and particular face traits have all changed in measurable ways across varied historical eras and societies. These often link to exact economic and social situations. Body fat stood for wealth and food safety in some historical settings, while pale skin stood for release from outdoor physical work in other exact historical and cultural settings. This reveals something truly significant that applies straight back to the main question. Attractiveness never formed one single fixed worldwide rule across human history, even in written historical eras that are fairly well known. Therefore, applying any one exact present beauty rule backward onto deep prehistoric groups and checking if they met it was likely always a somewhat imperfect way of framing this whole question from the start. Also raise a truly notable link between this whole subject and present facial reconstruction methods in particular. This stands as the most direct attempt, based on evidence, to actually picture how exact early individuals appeared, rather than merely guessing in general terms. Forensic face rebuilding depends on set data for tissue depth that measures average soft tissue thickness at exact spots on the human face. This data is placed straight onto a found skull to estimate the probable full face form. This method has created truly notable rebuilds of various early individuals. One standout is a rebuild of a Neanderthal woman that drew much public notice, mainly because the resulting face seemed far more familiar, more clearly human, and more standardly acceptable than common cultural stereotypes of Neanderthals had caused most people to anticipate. This one case strengthens a truly key point that runs through the whole discussion. Common cultural ideas of early humans have often overstated and twisted their real probable looks far more than the actual basic scientific proof supports. Next, handle a truly significant matter about average versus standout individuals inside any given early population. This difference holds great weight and is often overlooked in everyday talk on the subject. Exactly as in any present population, early human groups almost surely held a complete spread of personal differences. Certain people would have shown the sort of face balance, smooth skin, and ratio features that sparked strong responses of appeal. Others, because of sickness, injury, parasite burden, or mere natural difference, would have shown far less of those exact traits. Posing the query of whether early humans were appealing, as though every member of a whole early group looked the same, is just as mistaken as asking whether present humans are appealing and expecting one single uniform reply that covers all 8 billion people now living on Earth. The truthful, precise reply is that early groups, just like present groups, held real personal differences in how strongly each exact person would have sparked those basic evolution-based responses of appeal. A further key point concerns food intake and general health as well. This links straight back to the basic evolutionary biology covered at the start of this discussion. Early humans dealing with ongoing food shortage, parasite infection, or major physical difficulty would have displayed measurable and visible results of that difficulty straight on their bodily looks. These included lower muscle firmness, skin and hair condition harmed by lack of nutrients, and clear marks of sickness or harm. Therefore, the exact historical conditions of a group, periods of relative plenty against periods of real difficulty, would have directly shaped how many people inside that exact group were likely showing the sort of strong, visible health signs that spark strong responses of appeal. This forms a completely separate extra layer of difference beyond mere personal genetic variation. There is also a truly notable aspect worth adding to this talk that involves voice and motion. These are two sides of appeal that receive almost total neglect in talks centered only on fixed face traits, even though they matter greatly in real attraction. Studies on appeal of the voice have shown that particular voice traits linked to pitch resonance and voice steadiness act as further reliable signs tied to hormone health and general bodily state, fully separate from face looks. In the same way, studies on motion and walking style have shown that people can sense health and even some personality traits just from watching how someone walks. This implies appeal was never only a fixed visual judgment, even in deep prehistory. Early humans would have constantly noticed cues from voice, motion, posture, and confidence placed straight over whatever pure face and body traits covered in this discussion. A further key point concerns social and behavior traits. Research in evolutionary psychology steadily shows that bodily looks, while truly important, form only one part of a much larger puzzle of appeal that also covers shown skill, kindness, dependability, and social rank inside a given group. An early person showing real hunting ability, proven dependability inside their social group, or special ability at making tools or other prized craft work likely gained social credit related to appeal for those exact qualities, fully separate from how balanced their face was. Therefore, limiting this whole subject only to face bone form and skin clarity, while useful in science for isolating exact evolutionary processes, truly understates how multi-sided real early appeal and partner choice almost surely was in precisely the same complex multi-part manner that present human appeal remains today. A notable link joins this subject to age and stage of life in particular. Signals of appeal likely worked somewhat differently across a person's lifespan inside early groups compared with how they work in many present settings. In light of the much shorter typical lifespan and the truly hard physical work covered fully in earlier talks, signs of youth and bodily strength likely held even more direct and practically important weight in early partner choice than they sometimes hold in present settings. There, longer lifespans and lower demands for physical work have somewhat altered the practical calculation linking youth, health, and value for reproduction or economy inside a pair bond. This does not mean older people inside early groups were seen as unappealing in every case. Shown skill, social rank, and gathered resources likely offered real offsetting value. Yet it does imply that the exact balance of different factors related to appeal likely changed somewhat compared with certain present settings shaped straight by the truly different practical and population realities that early groups actually faced. It is also useful to note a truly significant point about how this whole subject links to present dating app information and current research on appeal more widely. Some of the strongest present proof for the deep evolutionary bases of appeal actually arises from studies done in a highly modern setting mediated by technology. Analyses of appeal patterns across huge present dating platform data collections have steadily found the same basic preferences. Balance, certain face ratio, proportions, and health signs appear reliably across a vast spread of different cultural backgrounds and demographic groups present on these platforms. This present data offers truly firm, large-scale backing for precisely the sort of deep mechanisms argued throughout this discussion that almost surely operated in early human groups as well. The same basic preferences continue to appear reliably, whether scholars examine present swiping actions on a phone or assemble indirect proof from tens of thousands of years past. At last, it is useful to note something truly worth considering as this whole talk concludes. The mere ability to pose this question at all, and to truly care about the reply, reveals something notable about how deeply this whole subject ties to basic human nature. Appeal attractiveness and the wish to seem appealing to others clearly were not some optional present luxury that arose with mirrors, magazines, or social media. They form a deeply early and deeply fixed part of what it has always meant to be human. This reaches back far past written history, far past farming, and far past most of the exact technologies and social forms covered across this whole series. Thus, were early humans appealing? From all that has been covered across this whole discussion, the truthful, most scientifically precise reply is truly yes, in precisely the same complex, personally variable manner that present humans are appealing. It rests on exactly the same basic evolutionary base of balance health signaling and ratio feature assessment that has operated steadily in the human brain for a vast stretch of evolutionary time. Certain early people would have shown notably balanced healthy ratio features that sparked precisely the same sort of strong responsive appeal in their peers that matching features spark in present observers now. Others, because of sickness, difficulty, or mere natural difference, would have shown far less of those exact traits. And the exact cultural covering placed over that basic biological base, which exact traits received stress, praise, or change through grooming and decoration, differed greatly across varied early groups and eras in precisely the same way it keeps differing across varied present cultures now. And truly, perhaps the most genuinely notable conclusion from this whole subject is seeing just how much continuity actually exists beneath all the surface differences that people tend to focus on when imagining early humans. The exact hairstyles, the exact ornaments, the exact cultural rules for what counted as stylish or wanted, all of that has changed sharply and many times across human history. Yet the basic biological system that assesses balance, smooth skin, and markers of strong health, the real deep evolutionary force that drives appeal from the start, has operated in nearly the same manner for an extremely long period. It quietly links every single generation of humans who ever existed, all the way back to whichever early person first took a piece of ochre, looked at their own image in calm water, and chose to appear just